This is Tom Ramsey. He's the president of Celebration of Love. He's at the Chive headquarters because we invited him for a Friday happy hour. He has no idea he's about to get a check for $10,000.
Is your name Tom? Yeah. And you work for Celebration of Love?
Yes, sir.
Then you might not know this, but I have a check for $10,000 for you.
Oh. Wow. Lordy.
Would you like this check?
On behalf of our children and our military families, absolutely.
Here you go.
Tom provides bikes for military children at Fort Hood every Christmas. A lot of bikes. This year's goal, in fact, was to build 1,200 bikes. It's an ambitious goal, and we were more than happy to help out. And for me, that's where the story ended. Chive Charities had done our job, and we donated the money. Towards the end of the happy hour, Tom pulled me aside and said he'd be honored if myself and the Chive employees would come to Fort Hood to help actually build the bikes that coming Wednesday. I told him probably not. December at the Chive is a sprint to the finish and blah, 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 blah. But then I remembered one of my high school teachers once told me, always remember at the end of the day, charity is just a pile of money on the floor if you don't have volunteers to donate their time. Tom was asking me for the most important thing you need to make charity work. And it's not money, it's the time to volunteer. One of my best friends is Medal of Honor recipient Dakota Meyer. Dakota is one of the most charitable guys I know, so I called him and asked if he wanted to join me. Dakota told me he'd love to go, but he asked me and our military editor, Rick Phillip, to meet him at Lakeway Airport in Austin instead. Word of advice, if you want to take 2 civilian helicopters into one of the largest military bases in America, I strongly advise having a Medal of Honor recipient behind the wheel. You know what I mean.
They're like, they have no idea they're going to handle it.
Pleasure for coming out. We really appreciate it.
The scope of the operation was humbling. It took up an entire warehouse. There were hundreds of troops hard at work building bikes. Over the years, thousands in the military community have been helped by the Celebration of Love program. It was sort of bittersweet, these bikes. They don't just represent a moment of pure Christmas joy for a child, they also represent a parent spending Christmas abroad to protect our country. I'd like to think those men and women would be really proud seeing their brothers and sisters back home carefully constructing one bike after the next, looking out best they can for their kids back on the home front. Dakota and I joined the soldiers to pitch in and build the bikes. I'm not good with tools.
Coming? Wrong screwdriver.
Dakota's amazing, by the way. I mean, you kind of expect a helicopter pilot to be really facile with moving parts, and he is. But don't worry, they found some of those minimum assembly required bikes for me to put together. Said I needed to get my training wheels on. It was both a metaphor and, not.
It's heavy.
And the troops actually nicknamed me Training Wheels for the day. In fact, I hope that doesn't stick. A few hours in, we received word that Major General Scott Eflint had caught wind that we were on the base and wanted to meet with us to swap stories and challenge coins. Yes. This is one of the most powerful men in the U.S. Army, and he took the time to meet with us. It was fascinating hearing his insights into life at Fort Hood.
Fort Hood, Texas is the largest military installation in the free world. It has 95% of all the tanks in the Army. We are also the largest single employer in the state of Texas.
One of the coolest moments was when the general reached in his pocket and then palmed me his challenge coin. And then I remembered I had a Bill Murray gold coin in my pocket and I gave it to him.
Thank you. And I reciprocate on behalf of General White and Sergeant Major Hendricks. Thank you. That's cool. That was his voice.
And I kind of looked cool. It was a real kick save. This man deeply cares about the 45,000 assigned soldiers at Fort Hood. The base itself is bigger than the state of Rhode Island and can actually accommodate every weapon system in the Army. The general had arranged for us to have a tour of the facility, including being given access to the Army training simulators. You ever wanted to wreck a Black Hawk helicopter? The deal he made with us is that afterwards, he insisted we return to the Corps West Atrium. The general just told us to walk around because there was important history there. And that's where he left us. I'll never forget Dakota Meyer standing in front of a wall of Medal of Honor recipients.
Hey, what's this?
For me that day, training wheels met training wheels, and I watched a hero meet heroes. Sometimes there's a great divide between civilians and those who have served. It's a chasm we can never cross. We can only hope to understand it just a little bit. And what began as a day of building bikes led us to places we'd never expected, and understanding the role Fort Hood played after the attacks of 9/11. They helped launch our war against terror, and of the more than 7,000 service members who have died since the attacks, some of those ranks started right here at Fort Hood. For some of these children, their parents never came home, and for that reason, we can never forget. Merry Christmas from the Chive and Chive Charities, and thanks to all our servicemen and women who won't make it home for the holidays this year.